Hi.
Hello.
So I'm Chi-Chi and this is Chantal.
Hello.
And we're back again to discuss The Nightingale by Kristin Hannah.
Love it.
You have the best summary, so I'm just going to throw you...
Oh, that's really sweet.
under the bus here.
I prepared. I actually wrote it down.
Oh, look at
this
that.
Is how much, it's actually fun. Let me just quick backstory.
Mm-hmm.
When we started this podcast, I was like, hey, I'm going to actually, and I was just listening to audiobooks and you were encouraging me to pick up physicals, and I'm cheap when it comes to books. You guys can hate me, whatever. I don't like to spend money on books.
And I'm the opposite.
Yes.
I'm a bit of a hoarder.
Yes, I'm
cheapest
cheapest as I can find. As long as they're, anyways. So I went to Value Village. I found 2 books, and this one honestly was just sitting there all alone by itself. And I was like, I like the cover, it looks good. And I turned around, I read the synopsis, and I was like, okay, this fits with my World War II obsession, so this looks okay. I did not Google it. I did not look at reviews, not a darn thing. And I just recommended it to you, and you started reading it or listening to it, which is the opposite in this case. And you're like, this is great. I started reading it and I read 125 pages in one night. And
that's impressive.
I love this book. It is by far, so I'm going to just set this precedent for this podcast. It is, for me, it is in my top 3 books of all time.
Wow.
For me, I love this book. I would read this again. But I'll do my summary, and I know that
Can
you
I
may
say
not.
something
Yes,
really quickly?
Of course.
And I am in this really funny place. I'm mourning the fact that I didn't actually read the physical, because I could tell when I finished it. Audiobook is just for me.
Some audiobooks.
No,
for
the
you?
act of listening to a book.
Okay.
And this is why I've been consecutively choosing fast-paced stuff that I have no interest in actually reading,
right?
To listen to, because they're easier to listen to and they're fun.
Yeah, fun.
But for me, the act of listening just takes something away from the reading experience. And I think the labor of reading, it's such a labor of love, right?
Yeah, I get it.
And when I'm done the book and it's a moving book, I think it just gives me this. I keep describing it as this.
Oh, I'm still grieving over the loss of finishing this book.
Right.
I wish it just kept going, because I wanted to, I really hope they do make a movie out of this.
Oh, they're gonna probably.
I know, it was supposed to come out in 2023, and here we are, 2024. Anyways, okay, let me get to my summary here. So to me, it's perfect. The writing isn't too fluffy or poetic, but it's also precise and descriptive. I clearly have a picture of everything and everyone in this book. The interwoven stories and the two sisters at the start of the book started out as polar opposite, only to fight a similar battle. The sisters themselves are opposite, yet care to preserve the morality of their friends and countrymen. It's perfect. It was more so the end and how she beautifully put a ribbon and a bow on this ending. To me, it was all tied up perfectly.
Right.
Every single loose end was tied up perfectly. Even if it was a tragic ending,
right,
it was tied up perfectly. Your thoughts? I know you don't feel the exact same, or not close, or you had just a different experience.
Yeah, it was a different experience. Let's start with structure, right? Because for me, I listened to this, and like I said, I felt like that took away from the reading experience for me. And I know there was some really, really just flowery stuff. I know you said that there wasn't, but I felt like there was some flowery writing, some sentences that I would have really appreciated for their depth and nuance and just how beautiful they've been crafted. But I almost feel like that was denied to me. It was my choice to read it, but I felt like the act of listening denied this experience. It just in general, the characters were obviously well thought about, well developed. The story clearly had been researched extensively. So she has quite a deep knowledge. So I felt like it was a learning experience for me, because unlike you, this was actually the first time that I had read a World War II
I love that.
fiction, right? Yeah. So deeply about World War II. I've never actually gone this deep into it. So I I got glimpses of things that it's just sort of like a blip in my knowledge. It's like a gap in my knowledge because I've never done research or like really like engaged with that history very deeply, apart from like classes, right? But I thought that the book was really well written. Honestly, it really was. The characters were really rich. The story is like such a human experience, right? Two sisters who are at odds with each other, who can't seem to get along just because they had a traumatic upbringing with their father, who's a drunk, and their mom died at a very young age. So this trauma has disintegrated the relationship in the family and the relationship between the two sisters. And we have this tense relationship, familiar relationship, against the backdrop of the war.
Yeah.
So as the war is like unfolding, we get two diverging paths, but they're doing something similar, right? Two diverging paths with the sisters, and yet they're doing something similar. So initially, Isabel, right? Isabel.
Yep.
Isabel is the sort of disruptor. She's a subversive person. You know, she's engaged in fighting the fight on the front lines with the group of guerrilla fighters. Vienne is the safe one. She's got a daughter to care for, and her husband is at the front lines, and she just does not want to be implicated in any
she's just going along
behavior
with what, you know,
it's expected of her. She's a good girl.
She's going along because she's doing what it takes to survive.
Absolutely, that's
and she's
a good girl.
No, it's okay. She is a good girl, but she's doing what it takes to survive and to not be killed at gunpoint or at shot in the head just for breathing, essentially, or breathing the wrong direction.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? Like, seriously,
I can see you have a lot of feelings, a lot of passion. I know, a lot of hate. We're gonna get there. Yeah,
so many feelings
in our discussion. But yeah, no, she eventually, what does the turn for her is the children, like watching kids, Jewish kids, be taken away to concentration camps,
and
their parents just resisting, right? So that was because as a mom, she felt called to this act of.
I wouldn't say she was resisting. I think she was just trying to be helpful. Versus Isabel
resisting.
Was like really
right.
It's really,
different, but I would say it's a different kind.
That's why I kind of said like the same but different, right? They're both taking their own paths, but they're essentially doing the same secret.
I would say
work.
No, I would actually say it's resistance, especially for her, somebody who initially sold out her best friend to
accident.
It was not an accident. Let's give context there.
No.
So, this soldier is billeting at Vienne's place. The soldier is a Nazi. His name is
Beck.
Now, can you hear the venom
in
Chantel's voice? Like it's just, I could see it in her face. So Beck is billeting at Vienne's place, and Beck is sort of presenting as this very friendly guy, even though he's a Nazi. I'm like, okay, we'll talk about it. Just hang on, okay, Chantal?
I'm here. I'm listening. I'm listening to you.
Essentially, where's my thought pattern? So Beck is presenting really friendly, but then he asks Vienne.
He's doing his job, which is what
he's doing his job.
Yes.
So he asks Vienne for a list of names of Jewish people and queers, among other people, who she works with at the school, elementary school she teaches at. And Vienne reflects on this, and in that moment decides to give the names, including
her best friend,
Rachel.
Yeah,
because to save her.
She really doesn't have a choice. She really doesn't, because if she does not comply, she doesn't know what this man is capable of doing. Right? It's
right.
Kill or be killed. Right? Or not kill or be killed, or give her names. And she really was, I think, so naive. Like, it's not like she saw all these Jewish people being taken away and being killed. We're not like more than halfway through the book, and then she's giving names.
No,
we're started at the fresh of the war, about like no one knows what is going to happen.
German invasion.
They don't know what their master plan is. I do think that she didn't know what she was getting herself into. She didn't know that was going to lead to Rachel's death. You think that she would willingly have done that if she knew that it was going to lead to Rachel's death? She thought maybe, okay, she's just going to get fired.
Oh,
okay,
that's
right?
That's
like
right.
she might just get maybe not get as many rations. She did not know. There would be no way to know. I don't even think Beck knew.
No.
As much as I do not like Beck, I don't think he fully knew. And you saw his transformation throughout the book on what exactly his role meant, right? Like he really, I mean, yes, I am in no way standing up for Beck, in no absolute way, or anything that the Nazis or like, you have no idea. Like, I do not condone this character in this book. I'm just throwing it out there. But just to your point, Vivienne, I do not think she realized that giving Beck that list was the start.
Right.
What was going to just be a domino effect of getting rid of every Jewish person in her town.
So why don't we... Okay, let's...
Sorry, that was very deep and very...
No. I know, because as you're talking, I'm just revisiting this book and Beck, right? Who this character is a point of contention between the both of us because we have our very different interpretation and feelings towards him. And I can't wait to talk about him. But I think let's tie up what we're saying about...
What were we saying? I got sidetracked.
Vienne and Isabel and resisting and what that means in terms of like how they resist, right? So I just think that Vienne was resisting, and she knew she was resisting. She was engaging in subversive activities that could essentially get her and her daughter killed and son. But she chose that, and in a way, she became. She was more than even an activist. She was like participating.
You know what?
In
thinking about it too, I think maybe she was doing it out of guilt.
That's what I was thinking right now.
I just thought about it.
Right, as we're talking about it, and that being a turning point in the beginning, like that beginning and giving away her best friends, sort of like being a turning point in her life and in her narrative, and like feeling so guilty about where things led off.
Because it really was.
So part of it could have been guilt for her. Well,
although at the same time, like they would have found out anyways.
Yeah,
who the Jewish
would have
people,
disclosed it. And that was her rationale, right, for giving away the name. I think we should talk about Beck.
Okay, let's do it.
So let's give context about this character. Beck is he's a family man. So he has a wife back in Germany. So you'll understand why I give this little explanation. He's got 2 kids, a daughter and a son. He's billeting at Vienne's place, and he has demonstrated himself to be a very compassionate and empathetic human being that is conflicted with his role in the war, and more importantly than his family status or status as like a man that has a family or whatever, he is also an SS, part of the SS, right? He's a Nazi soldier. Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he kills, he's maimed Jewish women and children. You see it happening in the book. He's just, he's complicit in the violence against Parisians. They're not in Paris, sorry, but against France, French people, as well as the violence against Jewish people, right?
Yeah, and I think the first problem with this character and the way that Kristin wrote it, and this is not a criticism, this is actually a credit to her, because she turned this evil man who we like, this horrible perception of what an SS soldier would be like, what a Nazi would be like, and turned him into a human being, which I had a really hard time with. I had a really hard time perceiving this soldier as a human being, because in my mind, he's not one. None of them were.
Right.
None of them were. They don't deserve to have any type of human component, human characteristic, human whatever attached to them at all. At all. That's just so I had a really hard time reading that, because she painted him in this, because we didn't really get the full scope of what he was doing. I mean, not all of us, but like I knew what, he might be doing or may not be doing in his roles. But he's also, you're right, he's a family man. He misses his wife and children, and now he's housed with Vivienne, and her child, and he's taking on this like husbandry masculine role, and providing for them. He's giving them food that they would never have gotten with their ration cards. He's doing, did he do housework, or did he did like other duties that maybe she wouldn't have been able to do? He would, he brought wine. Oh, what a delicacy. Chocolate, what a delicacy. Right. So he's doing all of these things.
Not just that.
And then they start to develop some feeling, like they have this connection, this romantic connection. So again, all of these things, I just want to say that all of these things that, if he wasn't a German soldier,
right,
I'd be like, okay, I'm rooting for this guy, But because there's that label of his job and what he's doing, and while it's the same thing, right? I understand that he's also kill or be killed, right? He has no choice. I mean, that's debatable, actually. He thinks he doesn't have a choice. I had a really hard time with the way that she pictured it. And I mean, and painted him in
You mean how Kristin Hannah painted him?
Yes, sorry. Yeah, how she painted him, how she wrote him as this human being. Because I've not...
You would have preferred for him to be painted as a bad guy.
Well, we get a bad guy, the second soldier who billets in her house. Oh my gosh.
That was a more authentic
100%. I was mad at him.
Of an SS.
Yeah, I don't remember his name. It's not worth mentioning, but he was a horrible, horrible man.
Right. So
he was horrible, but it was expected. So for me, I got mad, but at the same time, I'm like, nope. I didn't get mad.
Oh, we should probably say this now. If you haven't already listened to one of our podcasts, you should know that
spoiler alert.
Massive spoiler alert. We tend to spoil the book. So, just forewarning, there's going to be a lot of spoilers.
Yeah.
So I think that Beck does more though than provide for Viv. You call her Vivienne? Is it Vivienne or Vienne?
I call her Vivienne. Vivienne?
I think
isn't it
Vivienne?
Vivian.
Okay,
whatever.
On the audiobook.
Oh yeah, okay. What is I read it. So is Vienne?
Vienne, yeah. So
maybe I made up the
anyways. So he did more than provide resources for the house and provide wine. He actually helped.
Yeah, you're right.
Viv's or Vienne's best friend attempt to escape. He did in some way. Subvert German authority by providing support, even aliases for Rachel, which was Vienne's best friend. So Rachel's child, who Vienne ends up adopting as her own, Daniel, or
she doesn't adopt him,
or sure, she's like taking care of him.
So as we find out, heartbreaking.
So he does make certain efforts that would have certainly gotten him either imprisoned or killed.
Yeah, and he also
if he were found.
Get a care package to her husband.
Exactly.
But that still bothers me because he shouldn't be doing those things.
What do you mean?
Like, I don't like him painted. I don't like him being painted that way.
As a human.
As a human being?
I explained that this is probably what the book is trying to underscore, that any human being can be complicit in violence. So we see not just SS violence, but also we see a turn in French police who initially, are part of, they serve in the interests of France, but then over time in the narrative, they start serving in the interests of Germany by
it's writing from a
arresting
perspective, right? Like
arresting
they have no
German
choice.
Jews.
It's kill or be killed.
I don't know about choice. I think it's saying more about the way that state power can be easily co-opted and complicit in any sort of violence. It just depends on who's at the head.
If the German army is shooting women and children and for absolutely no reason but looking the wrong way.
Yeah.
I just think that when it comes to a massive power like Hitler and what he was doing, brainwashing, and the power that this man had,
Right.
I don't know if they had a choice. Like, they had no choice. Like, what were they going to do? They were going to get shot. I'm not condoning any of the actions. I just want to be very clear when I say this. Like, so
No.
I'm just making this. I'm just coming from a perspective of how Kristin Henna made me feel.
Right.
Because she put a human perspective on something that I don't think deserves a humanitarian perspective.
Okay.
From the German standpoint.
Right.
I'm not talking about German civilians. I'm not talking about the casualties that were not part of Hitler's army and his entire army. Like, yes, I'm not talking about that.
Yeah.
Because there are German casualties and German people. I'm not talking about Germans as even a whole, right? Because I do have descendants of that. So I'm not saying that
Obviously.
Obviously.
You're talking about
I'm just specifically talking about the Hitler and his his SS, his Gestapo, everything.
Right.
That they don't, in my opinion, deserve any type of
humanity. Any type of, yeah, I don't think they deserve sympathy.
We've gotten very sidetracked, so sorry.
No, you're very passionate about this. You've done a lot of reading. And so I think that so what we had been talking about previously is that it was something that comes up in our reading experience is that our own experience and knowledge and, the way that we see a lot of these things or what we know may bias our view of specific characters, may bias our view of the book as a whole, right? And I think that you would have preferred for you a more authentic, what you're saying is that a more authentic, or at least a writing of the character of Beck that you would have preferred would be something that, You know
what? No, it's not that I preferred it. I see where you're going with that, but so I'm going to contradict myself here, but
okay.
I don't think that soldier deserved to be depicted in that way. However, I think that if Beck would not have been like that, this book would not have been as good as it was. If that soldier, the second one that came to billet at her house, was with us the entire duration of the book, I think it would have been a lot more painful to read.
Right.
There wouldn't have been that almost not sexual. There was sexual tension between them too, which I really enjoyed. Yeah. I do like that he helped her. I do like that we saw that human being. But just because he had that, there was just a mental block for me because of what the job that he was doing. If he would have been a carpenter, he would have been a police officer, I think I would have been not as
moved,
annoyed.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah, okay, got it.
Right? Yeah. Because I think she needed him. She wouldn't have survived without him, I don't think.
But again, isn't that your bias, right? Your bias, coming into play and how you read the character.
Yeah. I'm just saying I don't think I would have enjoyed. So as much as I didn't like the character, I don't think I would have enjoyed the book without his character.
So for me, I strongly feel that what the book is trying to, right, we talk about the moral of the story, but what the book is trying to underscore is that forces like the army or the police force are serving in the interest of, I've already said, the state. So it doesn't matter what power, left-leaning or right-leaning, because these forces will easily serve whatever power is currently occupying the state. Do you understand what I'm saying? I think that we all, I almost felt like it was a cautionary tale, and that it has somebody Beck, who he's kind of a normal guy, and if he can be complicit in violence like this, right, just based on what he does and what he's doing for the state, I think that we all can.
I'd have to do research on this, and I don't know, but I would guess on the fact that I don't think that they knew the full extent of what they were doing. Like, I mean, gathering the list.
They
Like,
maybe
so
it is possible.
Like it was so secretive that.
But okay. So Isabel asked, "What are we doing here?" And one woman says, "I don't even want to know." And that answer for me highlights exactly the problem, right? It's like this willingness to look away from something harm that you're, now
Think about
complicit
it
in,
too, like
just so that you can survive. And obviously, yes, you're right. There's a difference in, the army and the police doing it and ordinary people who need to get by every day. But I think that at the end of the day, if you're willingly looking away at harm so that you can provide for your family, you're also complicit in that harm. And oh my God,
there's
as I'm
so
talking about this right now,
that's why there were trials.
Yeah, no, I wanted to throw that in. I'm just like thinking about like the ways that, yes, I think that you are like, you can be complicit in that violence, right? Yeah.
And I think it would be totally different if that was, I mean, it kind of is happening right now, right? I don't want to get into the Israel and Palestine war, but I was going to say, what would have happened if social media existed in World War II, right? Like, would they have been as complicit? Would they be able to Google things and see like what Hitler's, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it was just the lack of knowledge, lack of resources. I don't know all the facts of World War II.
But you don't have to.
You're right, I don't. But to say that, like, would it exist? I don't know if people would be as complicit as they were, or it was just a matter of, like, you'd really have to look into how Hitler coerced these people, right?
Apart from that, we can talk about the structure as well. So, like, you liked the end. You thought that things were tied up really neatly.
Yeah, the last chapter was great for me.
At the end.
Yeah, well, I didn't like that Isabel died. And so what I really liked was this whole time, so we had it was very brief, but we had like, not quote unquote present day of this old lady who's preparing to go to this invitation. She's old. She's maybe going to go back to Paris because for this reunion. And then we, zip to World War II and, these two sisters. And the whole time I thought this old lady was Isabel.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, blah, blah. And then she gets to the last chapter. Like literally she's saying her speech and then she says, my sister. And I literally start crying.
Really?
Because I'm like,
I actually expected it to be.
I didn't.
I kept thinking, who is it going to be? Who is it going to... I'm like, I think it's... The only reason I wasn't sure if it was Vienna is because she said her son doesn't know. And I'm like, wow, that would be a really well-kept secret if everybody in the whole family knows your son.
And I thought it was Isabel because the very first chapter, she has Juliet's identity documents, which is Isabel's fake identity. So I was like, this whole time. And then her son was like, who's Juliet? And, well, yeah, like, it's not her, it's her sister. Anyways, yeah, I really liked that. And, I thought the structure of the book, I don't know, I just really liked it. And it was so action-packed, yet dramatic. And
so that's the only thing I don't know.
I was reading a movie, and I've not felt like that in a really long time.
Yeah, so that, so that's actually for me maybe like the problematic element.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't know how much to feel like some of the deaths were gratuitous or sensationalized, right? Like, there's that scene, which is where I start crying, where, what's her name's? Rachel's daughter dies.
Sophie?
As they're fleeing.
No, Sophie's Vivian's.
So it's okay. Anyway, sure. I can't remember now her name, but like, she's basically gunned down by an SS officer as they're trying to flee.
That was so frustrating.
And honestly, I wondered if that needed to happen. I mean, like, like there are just like all of these really, really like what's the really like imagistically written? I'm sorry for lack of a better word. Like really detailed,
I loved it.
Accounts, but of the violence against. I
didn't love the violence, obviously, but I loved.
Yeah, you liked the way that it was written, but I'm like, I don't know.
See, I think that it was just so perfectly written, even though the subject matter was awful and horrific. Mm-hmm. She did such a good job where it wasn't super graphic. Like, to me, it had just the perfect amount of detail.
Right.
And there were times where it was so like she was able, I don't know, I just thought that Kristin Hanna was able to write the tension of like two lovers, potential lovers, the tension of, you know, friends, the tension of the relationship of sisters, father. Like she just did such a great job making I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but like she's allowing us to feel all of these relationships and really get into the minds of all these characters. Yet she also does a great job with scenes like that, and like the scenes where the sister is in, I forget the concentration camp, Raven something, the all women's concentration camp. I actually had to Google it. Like she just does a great job like of writing multiple genres and multiple scenes just perfectly. I've read historical fiction, like I've read like dry historical fiction too, and I like it, but I didn't find that it was as, I don't know, I just
No,
like,
it was well written.
you just didn't like the context.
So you know what's really funny? After we had the conversation about Beck, right? I actually went and Googled Kristin Hanna because I was like, is she Jewish? Because if she's Jewish, then it puts it really makes it interesting that she wrote Beck the way that she did. She's not Jewish. Oh. And you know, I kept wondering, and as we read a lot of these stories, right, of like tragedy and crisis in different parts of the world in different times.
I picked a lot of them.
Like yes, you did. I keep thinking about who gets to tell these stories, and yeah, how much should we question a story when it comes from a specific author who is distant from the event, right? Didn't live through it and didn't have family that lived through it. And like, yeah, should we question the fact that Kristin Hanna, you know, like wrote a character like Beck as somebody who isn't Jewish herself? And like, these are all ethical questions and I don't know how to answer it. And like, as somebody who just has zero knowledge of this history, right? Like, I really can't really say much. I didn't live through it. I don't have family that lived through it. And I'm just thinking about this now. I didn't actually think about it before, but like with how graphic the scenes were, with, oh gosh, it was really, really, some sections were just really graphic. Like I am questioning whether or not, like, just how critical I should be of this writing style just based on the author's
she made it so real
identity.
I'm gonna want to loop back on the identity portion that you just said, but I think the writing that she did, regardless of her identity and it being so vivid and real, is so important. If she had left out, I don't think it would have had the same effect. She's trying to make you feel. Right. Because what happened in World War II, and especially even like the concentration camp section, again, I've read multiple books like this. I've read like actual real accounts of it too. And I don't think we would have had as impactful as of a story is if she didn't go into that detail and didn't describe it in such a real and accurate way. She made you picture that little girl getting shot for absolutely no reason. Right? And that's infuriating. It's upsetting. Right? That's what happened all the time. Right. And I think if that chunk would have been left out, or she would have kept that child alive, we might have liked the story a little bit better, but I don't think we would have got the overall impact of World War II.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Does the fact that what the author is doing is very important, she's conveying a certain history that maybe a lot of people don't have this intimate knowledge of, right? Okay. Does the fact that the author is doing this really important work, is this complicated by the fact that she gets paid a lot of money to write these sort of stories for you?
No, I don't think so, because if she was painting the German army in a positive light, absolutely, I would think there's a problem. There are a lot of people, Chichi, who get paid a ton of more money for doing a lot more unethical or important things, right? Like, okay. Right? I don't think, for me, I never even considered that.
This is a lot of people's entry point into this history. This is my entry point into this history.
But what I'm saying, jurors, Do you think I'm going to get mad at the actresses that played these parts and they get paid a lot more money than Chris and Hannah is going to make from this book? No, I'm not going to get mad, right?
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Like,
okay.
She's making money because she's had multiple books in her portfolio, and that doesn't bother me. She's not taking it. I don't think she's taking advantage of the historical context to her perspective.
I think it's hard to know. And I did actually say something that I don't know completely if it's true. I actually don't know how connected. I just know that I researched. We all say researched. I Googled. I really Googled if she's Jewish, and the answer was no. So I assume that she's distant from this actual.
I'm gonna do research in
history.
Yeah, research.
It's really important to know, right? But I would think that these are all a lot of the ethical questions underpinning a lot of the literature and even film, and like who gets to play what roles in Hollywood. Yeah, all of it. Yeah. All of the ethical questions underpinning much of this discussion. Okay, so I think that it's worth it is possible that authors know what is going to sell. Who knows what the inspiration came from? It is possible. I'm not certain. I don't know what her intentions are, but I think it's worth a conversation to talk about the extent to which she is exploiting an element of history, to which the extent to which much of this much of the violence is gratuitous. Much of the violence is really, jarring and graphic. I loved that you brought the word graphic, which I forgot. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
But in this discussion, and it is worth wondering and discussing how much that comes to play in writing about these stories, like how much understanding intimately the publishing aspect and the publishing industry and what readers want and what will sell comes to play, and writing the way that she constructs the narrative, not necessarily about the history, but the way that she constructs the narrative.
So I think that question we're going to answer when we read other World War II books, because we have
the Mexican one.
Yeah. Well, just to give you, because it'll compare, right? We have a couple of I think like 4 World War II books. Thank you, Chantal. That we are going to go through. And what we're going to read. So one of the books is The Midwives of Auschwitz. So I think that, I don't know. I haven't actually looked at it. I don't know the reviews. I don't know anything. But that's going to give you a good idea if that's typical for the genre. Because for me reading that book, I was not shocked by any of that stuff. I was not jarred. Okay. I was not thrown. I didn't, like I said, I didn't cry to the end. It was because I cried because she tied all these loose ends together, and it was beautiful.
For you, it's a genre.
For me, it's just like, it's normal. We didn't give this book a rating. I think we kind of rambled on about, maybe it's a good thing that I kind of got really passionate about it, but I just really liked this book. So and I said this in a voice note, if I could give this 10 out of 5, I would. Okay. And I did have one critique that I did not get to. And it doesn't hinder my star rating, so I still vote this 5 out of 5. But the structure of the book, I'm just going to zip back to it because I forgot about it, the war just kind of ends, and she just jumps right into, it just was like, okay, we're immersed in the war. Oh, okay, now we've jumped to the ending. Oh, okay, everything's okay. So this second SS soldier is leaving. Oh, and her husband's now coming back from war and running down the driveway. Oh, we're here already. So that kind of little jump was really abrupt, and I didn't like it. I was still like, oh, okay. And then it was fine.
Oh, but for me, I liked it. I was like, oh, thank you for getting straight to the point, which the book I'm reading now, 6 you on a spin. Good God. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll too.
No. Okay. Should we?
What was your
final?
Reading.
Gosh. I don't know. It's funny. Like, I think I give it a 3.8, but I don't know how much of that is because I didn't actually read the physical book. I don't know if I'm just being a baby about that. And I don't like so, but I don't know. You don't think so?
No, I think you have an opinion about the book. It's also, you said it's your first time reading a book of this nature, right?
I really do like it. I just don't think it's a perfect I don't even think it's a 4 out of fun. And again, like the thing is, it's so in this process of reading for this book club and having discussion, I think I'm just like, I could read something that's mind blowing and just not be in the mood, and it wouldn't sit with me, you know. And I'm wondering how much of that is just a mood and expectation. I'm expecting something grander. I've maybe been really impressed by a specific book that set my expectation really high, and I'm just not hitting, I'm not getting that dopamine fix from any of these books, really. So it's just a sort of mediocre, okay place, you know. And I'm ready to like get a really, really high lit fic right now. I feel like maybe this is gonna be it for me. You know, that's kind of where I am.
I get it.
I don't know why.
I will also say that I've been listening to audiobooks for 5 years.
Right.
I have actual books of nonfiction that I've read, but I haven't picked up a novel in a long, long time. I would listen to them because it's entertaining. So this is the first novel, the first fiction book that I've read in almost 5 years that I've actually picked up, physically read it. So maybe you're right. Maybe that does have some kind of effect. Yeah.
Mountains. Okay, so I'll give it a 4.
Okay, Larry.